the folks that I talk to who want someone other than Trump, they really like her. But the people I talk to who already say that they are definitely going to be supporting Donald Trump, they feel certain that he could defeat Joe Biden in 2024. And a lot of them are still saying that they believe Donald Trump defeated Joe Biden in 2020. So that's the mindset that we're looking at as the primary here draws to a close.
It may surprise you that over here people aren't really very focused on who Nikki Haley is. Tell us who she is.
Nikki Haley is first and foremost a former governor of South Carolina. She served 6 terms in office here in the state where I live and report for the AP. She was also Donald Trump's first United Nations ambassador. That was a cabinet level position during her tenure. And before all of that, she served 3 terms in the South Carolina State House. So she has several different layers of elected experience in her what she brings to office potentially, but also some foreign policy experience, which a lot of voters out on the campaign trail are telling me that they're excited to hear more about, particularly as international events become more and more part of what candidates are talking about.
And she was born Nimarata Nikki Randhawa, so she's got an interesting background.
She is the daughter of immigrants to the United States from India. She often talks about, particularly as the campaign conversation revolves in large part in the U.S. around illegal immigration. She makes the point that her parents immigrated here legally and that she says voiced concern to her from time to time about the situation at the U.S.-Mexico border. So that is a piece of her own personal biography that she also brings into her political campaign. She's from a very rural area in South Carolina called Bamberg. It's traditionally a pretty democratically political place. Clearly, she is a Republican, represented a different area when she was in the state legislature here and when she ran for governor. But she often talks about that rural upbringing in an area where there were a lot of Black people, there were a lot of white people, but she casts herself as the kind of in-between person in terms of her personal identity and culture that didn't quite fit into either side. And so therefore makes that argument that she understands a broad, diverse background when it comes to who she would like to represent as president.
I think I'm right in saying she's from a Sikh background. Sikh background. Now, why are people talking about her now? Why is there, she's got it? This seems to be her moment. People seem to be saying, well, if it's not Trump, she's the favorite.
There have been a lot of people throughout the campaign who are talking about someone other than Donald Trump, not quite sure exactly who that might be in terms of which candidate, but some candidates have been dropping out of the race, which we always see at this point in the campaign. And so now of those who remain, there are some who are giving Haley a second or even third look. Not necessarily that those people were with Donald Trump and are now choosing to perhaps back someone else, but they weren't quite sure exactly whom they would pick in the non-Trump lane. But for Nikki Haley, for a lot of voters that I talked to along the campaign trail, they are considering her now, particularly for some in terms of her international experience that she could potentially bring to office, but as well as the Republican debate performances that they have seen her put on, that she has come across as someone who doesn't back down when it comes to criticism or barbs being floated at her from some of her competitors. And they like what they see, at least in some of
she's been pretty rude, hasn't she, in the debates to her rivals?
I think the way that she would cast it is that she has been defending herself and hitting back. But you're right, she hasn't been afraid to land some of those punches, as we often see on the debate stage. Sometimes it becomes more of a competition of, one-liners versus a lot of policy.
Didn't she call someone scum or something?
She did. Vivek Ramaswamy, the biotech entrepreneur who's a neophyte when it comes to elected politics, he landed a criticism on her during their most recent debate in terms of her daughter's use of TikTok, which is a platform that has been at large debate among Republicans seeking presidency this year. And when he made the campaign, or when he made that argument personal, that's when she called him scum there on the debate stage, which the microphones picked up and a lot of people reported on thereafter.
Now, what about the support she's picking up? A lot's been made of the Koch brothers, very influential right-wing billionaires. What are they doing? I mean, is she picking up a lot of support now?
She did get the endorsement from Americans for Prosperity Action. That is the organization begun by the Koch brothers that is pretty critical in terms of the grassroots money that it brings to candidates to be able to expand their campaigns in these early states, just like Iowa, where ground game and being able to get out and door knock and talk to voters directly is very important. It takes a lot of money to do that. And with their endorsement, AFP Action also brings those resources that they're now equipping Nikki Haley with. So they will be helping her in that effort. And that's very crucial and important because fundraising in a GOP field that started off as big as this one did is highly competitive. And so that money should certainly help her continue to get out her message.
And how do you rate her chances of being the nominee rather than Donald Trump?
It is really hard to know. It's not just that Donald Trump could be losing more and more support, but also there are voters who are concerned about the legal cases that surround him. There is a lot of support for him that's, I think, baked in at this point. There are people who would rather vote for him, or if they couldn't, stay home. I've heard that from a lot of his supporters in the months that I've been reporting on this campaign. So it is at this point, I mean, Donald Trump is the front runner in the early states. He's the front runner in a lot of the national conversation. But there are these candidacies like right now, Nikki Haley, that are really making a run for it. The first votes in Iowa are just weeks away. So that's when we'll really begin to see how much of a lot of these last minute type moves are really making a difference in Donald Trump's lead.
And how big an issue do you think it is, given what Donald Trump's Supreme Court have done over abortion and Roe v. Wade? How big an issue is that for her and the fact that she's a woman?
Nikki Haley says this herself, and a lot of people say this about her, that she is uniquely equipped to be able to talk about abortion as a woman. And that seems like a pretty base way to break down what is a very important issue. But she does have personal anecdotes and stories and the way that she talks about the issue that are just different. And you can't really parse that any more simply than that. But, I think it is also important to note that as much as we in the media and in other circles talk about abortion and the importance of it in this presidential campaign, it is certainly an important issue. But when I ask people on the campaign trail at a variety of events, what are your top 3 issues? When you go into the ballot box, what's top on your mind? It is rare that I hear abortion mentioned in those top 3. It's more often the economy, even foreign policy or immigration. So those are just snapshots in time. Those are anecdotes, but I think that's important to note what's on the minds of voters, who are the ones whose opinions will really start to matter here soon.
Okay, Meg, final question. Let's just suppose it's 50-something Nikki Haley against 80-something Joe Biden. How does she stack up in that contest?
Far be it for me to prognosticate or make any sort of forecast for what actually happens. But I think on Nikki Haley's behalf, she would certainly argue that she represents a new generation, not just numerically, but also in terms of thought and process. So for her campaign, that's exactly the matchup that they want, clearly, as a general election matchup starts to form. But for her side, that is certainly something that she wants to be able to draw that contrast to say, look, that's great. We have a lot of politicians who are getting up there in years, but I am young and I bring a lot of experience with me despite my age. So that is certainly what they are hoping for, and we shall see what happens.
To win, would she be better than Trump, stronger than Trump?
That's certainly her argument. Clearly, that's the opposite of his. But from, the folks that I talk to who want someone other than Trump, they really like her. But the people I talk to who already say that they are definitely going to be supporting Donald Trump, they feel certain that he could defeat Joe Biden in 2024. And a lot of them are still saying that they believe Donald Trump defeated Joe Biden in 2020. So that's the mindset that we're looking at as the primary here draws to a close.
Okay, Meg Kinard, we'll probably be back with you, I suspect, to talk more about Nikki Haley in the future. Thanks very much.